Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Social Media Millionaire Podcast. I think this is going to be a really fun episode. We are going to unpack what it really takes to hit $500,000 months, and exactly what your business really needs to have in place, and have dialed in to be able to do 500K months. So we hit our first like $500,000 month. Let's see, a year and a half into business. And so, obviously I know that that's not the norm for people. It typically takes people much longer than that. It takes people much longer to hit seven figures, but I just want to share kind of what we've done in our business, what we have dialed in, that's made it possible for us. So essentially, I have this episode kind of broken down into four core pillars, and these are the same four pillars that we teach in the programs. And so this is, exactly what we do to get clients to those 100,000 and multi six-figure months. So we're going to kind of do a sneak peek, unpack that today with you guys. So, first things first, we're going to dive into clarity. So there's kind of four questions that you need to be able to answer within this clarity phase. And this often is the hardest part for people to actually figure out and get to a place where they feel really good with what they're going to be putting out on social media, and then that connection between their offers and what they're saying in their content and their marketing. And so this can be difficult for people. So, number one, we need to be able to answer, what are the most common buyer types in your audience? For me, I have a lot of driver and expressive buyers in my audience. Not that I don't have any analytical or amiable buyers, because I definitely do. But when I look at the primary buyer types that I have coming through our sales funnel, when I look at the majority of the sales conversations that I have, it appears to me that we have primarily driver and expressive buyers in our audience. And any client of mine knows, they're probably nodding along going, yep, I know I'm a driver buyer. Yep, I know I'm an expressive buyer. Because we just have a lot of those, and a lot of it is due to just the nature of, what our business is, where we talk a lot about finance. We lead with a lot of numbers and outcomes, because of the nature of our business. And so it tends to attract those type of buyers. So it's important for you to have the understanding. Yes, we still want to speak to all four in our content, and we go deeper into that in the episode about the four buyer types that we have. So I would go listen to that as well if you're not super clear on that. But we really need to be able to answer that question, because it's important in the way that we structure our sales process, in the way that you write copy in your funnels, in the way that you activate people on your socials and bring people through and immerse them into your world. If you have that data around what buyer types we're primarily speaking to, it's going to make your life a lot easier. It's going to drive your conversion rate up, and your close rate is going to skyrocket. So really, really important, especially as you move forward in your business and you pass those 100K months and you're headed towards $500,000 a month. Being able to communicate that and train on that with your sales team is going to be super important as well. Because if they're not able to identify, what buyer type they're speaking to on the phone or in the DMs, then you are going to see a drop in your close rate, because ultimately they're not going to be selling to people the way they need to be sold to. And the thing is that even people that have come through some of the best sales training programs in the world, they're not taught that information. They're not taught about the four buyer types. They're taught how to follow a script and overcome objections, but they're not taught generally about the personality types and about how to actually communicate with them, how to tailor your pitch to what the buyer type that you have on the phone with you is actually going to care about. So that seems to be a really big gap in sales people's trainings that I've observed. And so it's going to be important that you have this data, have this information, to be able to train your own sales team as you continue to scale. Next thing under clarity is understanding, what are the specific symptoms your audience is most activated by identifying. So, again, when people are watching your content, are they able to self identify? And what do they seem to self identify with the most? What resonates the most with your audience in terms of activation, right? We're not necessarily interested in reach and engagement here. What we're interested in is, what symptoms are you discussing on the days that you're seeing high volume of website traffic, a high volume of applications coming through. We want to correlate that sales data with what you're actually posting on social media. Understanding, the reach and all of that other information is, of course, important. But when it comes to specifically driving sales for your business and being in a very sales-centered mindset to drive these high cash months, really understanding what symptoms is activating your audience into buying is going to be key. Next question we need to answer under this clarity piece is who specifically your offers are for. So, I don't talk a lot about having an ideal client avatar and all of that because I think that you should focus in on the problems that you solve for people, not necessarily the people that you solve those problems for. And I continue to stand by that as we've scaled our business, but we do need to have an understanding of what types of problems are our offers specifically solving so that we can correlate that with our content. We want to make sure that the problems that we're solving in our offers correspond directly with the symptoms that are the most activating that we're discussing in our content. So those two go hand in hand. And then finally, we need an understanding of some competitor analysis. What are you better at than anyone else? And what is your key differentiator? And this is something that even multiple 7-figure business owners that I've worked with seem to struggle with, is really understanding what makes them different than anyone else in their industry, than anyone else that they're competing against. And, for us, because people like to ask me this question a lot, what do we do differently? Well, number one, there's not another person in the industry that has as deep of an understanding of buyer consumer psychology as we have here. Another huge differentiator is the fact that we have somebody with a data science degree on our team, who's able to do a lot of, predictive analysis and really go deep into the data and pull insights out that just simply nobody else in the industry has the training to be able to do. And then we also, emphasize cross-platform traffic. So again, infusing that sales psychology into the customer journey and leveraging the different platforms the way the algorithms are built to be leveraged. So you're maximizing what you're getting out of every single platform rather than trying to do everything, attract, nurture, and then also sell on one single platform. So those are, some really huge differentiators for us. And so if you're not able to answer those questions and essentially be able to say, okay, this is what I'm better at than anyone else in my industry, we need to go back to the drawing board and really get an understanding here within this clarity piece. Because if you are not able to answer that question, you're not going to be able to show up as a leader in your space. You're going to struggle to create content that really shows people their gaps and, again, differentiates you from your competitors. If you want to completely get rid of the price shopping phase, if you want to completely eliminate the losing leads to competitors, then this is going to be vital within your marketing, because then, if you really nail this within your content, you're not going to have people kind of playing you against other people in your industry and price shopping between the two of you, right? We're just not going to have that happen at all if you have this really, really dialed in. The next pillar that is necessary for these $500,000 months is, like I mentioned previously, having platforms that are maximizing visibility. So this is where we double down on Pinterest marketing just to get you in front of as many people as humanly possible, doubling down on creating viral content on TikTok and even on Instagram, and really leveraging those elements of the platforms that are engineered for virality, engineered for visibility. Okay, so visibility and virality, the people that tell you it's not important don't understand marketing, because the reality of the situation is that the more people you reach, the more opportunities you have to sell, right? And so the more opportunities you have to sell, the more sales you're going to make, which is ultimately how you scale. So reaching a high volume of people is going to be important, and you don't have to do that through running ads. That's why we do what we do, is because you can reach the same amount of people, if not more, than you would be able to reach with your ad budget that you might have. So really leveraging, like I said, Pinterest marketing, really diving into that SEO and getting that search traffic that is going to continue to serve you for months and years to come is going to be incredibly important. And the next is really maximizing, like I said, the visibility and virality strategies for short form content. And this is where kind of that psychology of virality comes in, where we're not only understanding the algorithms and what is going to actually drive a video to go viral, but also understanding, the human behavior, because every single algorithm is built on the back of consumer behavior, right? What goes viral and what we see in our feed is a direct response to the way people have reacted to that content, right? So when we're looking at a video that's not performing very well, 10 out of 10 times, it's because we have a low watch time on that video. People haven't watched the entirety of the video. They've dropped off towards the beginning. So looking at the data of why videos go viral, ultimately it comes back to the watch time and how you can tailor what it is that you need to talk about to drive sales for your business in a way that's going to also connect psychologically to get people to watch that entire video and actually have it go viral. And understanding that buyer behavior and the psychology of virality is what is going to create a repeatable process for you. Because can we control the algorithm? No, but can we control what buttons we press within the human psyche of the people that our content is shown to? Yes, absolutely. And if those people watch the entirety of your video, the algorithm then will push your video. That's how it works, right? Because when you help keep people on the platform, you're helping the platform directly make money. The longer you can keep people on the platform, i.e., the longer you can keep people watching your content, the more you're going to be rewarded in the algorithm. So when we look at virality and creating videos that get a lot of reach and visibility, it ultimately comes back to this psychology and human behavior as to why people will watch the entirety of the video. So that's where we bring in certain things, around pattern interrupts and around triggering that dopamine effect, that aha moment for people. There's a lot of little tactics that we can employ to ensure that people are not only watching the entirety of your video, but then are also going to binge the rest of your content, which again is going to bolster your appearance in the algorithm. And then we also have, the $1 million content method that we talk about all the time, which is where you're able to create 12 months of content in a very short amount of time and have a 12-month content plan so you know exactly what you're talking about for months to come. You're not scrolling through your feed looking for inspiration and then saving random ideas to the notes app on your phone. Yes, I see you guys doing that. What you're able to do is, again, tap into that psychology of human behavior and really leverage that understanding to create content that you know is going to perform for you, regardless of the topic, regardless of the concept, and even regardless of the format. When we understand those psychological triggers, we're able to ensure that that content is going to perform and create sales for your business. And so what the $1 million content method does is it ultimately allows you to post once a day and create at least $100,000 per month in revenue. And the reason for that, again, is because you have that mix of virality and conversion, because we understand this buyer behavior, we understand the buyer psychology, and what trigger points need to be pressed on to ultimately, number one, attract the correct people, but then also activate them to ultimately convert them into a sale. So that's the visibility part, okay? Anyone who tells you that virality and going viral isn't important to business, like I said, they don't understand marketing, because a volume of people to sell to is going to make your life a lot easier. Now, can you make a ton of money with a very small audience? Absolutely. Yes, 100%, especially if you're selling high ticket products or programs, right? However, the larger amount of traffic that you have, the more opportunities you have to make sales. And as you dial in your conversion rate and your conversion rate increases, when you reach more people, automatically your sales increase, your revenue increases as well, if you can maintain that conversion rate once you increase the volume of people that you're reaching. Number 3, we have then conversion. Okay, so this is probably one of the most important parts, right? Because we don't just want to have an audience of consumers and people saying, oh, wow, this is such great information, but then actually not have any of them buy. Okay. So we need to have a clear understanding of what you need to say in your content to get people to convert. And this goes hand in hand with knowing your marketing and sales data. You're not going to know what to say in your content to get people to convert if you don't have a good understanding of your numbers and exactly what is activating people to buy. So this is where, hitting home to what I mentioned earlier with having this data scientist on our team, because we're able to really dive into the data and make decisions based off of what we're seeing. So we're not guessing. We know what's going to work. We know what's going to perform based off of the information that we have gathered from the content that you've been posting. So correlating, what you've said in your content to your high sales days, your high application days is going to be very important. And then going beyond just driving applications, we also need to understand, what result or solution content is going to drive that activation. And so again, this goes back to knowing your numbers and understanding your data, because we need to know what results people are going to be the most activated by. And this ultimately hits home back to what I talked about with clarity and market research, is why we do that in the beginning. It's the foundation of everything that we do, because if we have that understanding of what our audience desires and what it is that they're ultimately trying to get out of working with us, then we also understand what results and solutions are going to drive activation through our content. Okay. And then it's really important to know how to handle objections in your content, because this is going to streamline your sales process. If you're not having to handle objections in the DMs or on the phone because you already handled it with your content, your conversion rate and your close rate is going to skyrocket, right? You're going to also be able to move more people through your sales process at a higher volume if you're not spending time handling these objections through the one-to-one conversations. And so, this is something, and this episode I think is really going to hit home to this, like a higher level of business owner. I think it's fantastic for anyone at any level to be listening to this, because you can be working towards kind of being able to check all of these boxes within your business. But when this all comes together, I think what you'll see is that the business owners that are really heading towards that 7-figure months and are just kind of struggling to have everything fully dialed in, those are the people that are going to resonate most with this. And so moving on to the next point with that is the sales process and actually selling to the 4 different buyer types. So, we discussed previously being able to train your sales team so that they understand who they're speaking to. And even when you're earlier on in business and you're handling the sales yourself, knowing what type of buyer you're speaking to is going to make it so much easier for you to not only close the sale, but also for you to close the sale in a very ethical way where both you and the prospect feels really good. They feel empowered to make the decision, and you've really shown, empathy through that sales process and really showing that you care and that you are able to customize to what they ultimately need. And then another aspect of the sales process that we need to look at is the data within. So are there areas in your sales process where you're losing people? Potentially you're having people submit applications, but then they're not actually booking the sales call, right? So then you're losing them. Or maybe you're having people apply and then you're messaging them in the DMs, but then you're always going to their request folder. So you're losing leads that way. Or maybe, the gap in your sales process is you. Maybe people are getting on the phone with you and you're not quite sure how to tailor your pitch to the buyer, and you're losing those leads. You're not quite sure how to close, right? So there's any number of things that could be not dialed in your sales process. And we're going to only have that understanding through looking at the data and through seeing what those gaps are in your conversions. And so it's also, again, for this higher level of business owner, it's going to be harder to dial that in for newer businesses because you don't have as much data to work off of, because you won't have brought as many people through the sales process. So the more people you can bring into your sales process, the more applications you can have come through, the easier it's going to be to analyze, get that data, and get that understanding, so that you can really dial in that sales process, so that you know that those hard-earned leads from the visibility that you create and the activation content that you create, that those leads are actually going to turn into a client or a customer. Then finally, we have our delivery pillar. And this is, where it all comes together, because it's really important to be able to handle the volume of leads that we create for you. It's going to be important that you deliver that high level service for the people that you've sold, right? That's ultimately what we all want. We want those raving reviews. We want the client wins and the results. And we want to be able to double down and triple down on that. So one thing that we look at is the client management and the experience. And I think that this is probably something that we'll want to do another episode and go deeper into. I've been learning a lot about learner psychology. I've been reading a lot of books. I've been listening to a lot of podcasts. And we also brought on a team member who's really great at curating the client experience, to even further up-level this within our business. But really understanding the client management and experience has been really eye-opening for me, because there's, of course, there's different ways that people learn. There's different ways that people receive and process information. And so there's some very simple things, within even your automated processes that you can infuse to create a higher level and more impactful client experience for, again, these different personality types and the way that people learn and the way that people buy, to be really supportive of them. And so creating a high value client experience and also having a really high level onboarding process is one thing that's going to solidify your retention, which is ultimately what is going to set you up to make the jump from 7 figures to 8 figures, as we've learned, is going to be retention and reoccurring revenue. And so generating all of these leads and generating the conversion is fantastic. But if you can't retain those leads, if you can't retain those customers, you're ultimately going to be stuck in a hamster wheel of basically making $2 million a year. And we know this, $2 million a year is where businesses go to die, because you're just spinning your wheel, spinning your wheel, spinning your wheel. And so it takes some heavy lifting to get over that hump. But once you get there, it just continues to build on itself. So looking at how we can infuse different elements within your client experience, within your client management, to ensure that we are really having a high level retention rate and really supporting people throughout their entire journey is going to be very, very important. Which leads me to my next point, which is offer result refinement. So once we have these offers that we're selling, and of course you're getting results, but we want to double down. How can we get people results faster? How can we get people results even in a shorter amount of time or with a more direct path to results? How can we support even more people and deliver the same level of experience and result? And so constantly reverse engineering your offers and looking at, what is the outcome that we're ultimately selling? What is the result that people are seeking to buy from us? And how can we double and triple down on getting them that result in a more seamless way and faster, right? Because that's ultimately what people are wanting. They want their results, they want their outcome as fast as humanly possible. So, again, doubling down on that psychology, being able to bring in team members that have that expertise that you don't is going to be very impactful. And then, the system that's going to facilitate all of this is also very important, which is why we've actually created a software that will basically run your entire business for you. So you can cancel that external website hosting platform and the course hosting platform and the membership hosting platform and Zapier to connect it all and the email marketing platform and Dubsado or whatever it is that you're using for client management and onboarding and sending contracts and processing payments, right? All these different systems that you would have to pay for, right? And all of these systems that I mentioned are usually at least $100 a month. Then you also have to pay for Zapier to kind of cobble it all together and make it work together. And that's not always seamless. And that doesn't always create the best client experience because it can be confusing and the tech can break, right? And so that is why we've curated this system where it's all in one. It all is made to work together, so that we don't have those issues. We don't have those problems come up. And we also are not paying for a tech stack that isn't actually serving our business and our clients. So that's where we're able to get into those higher level refinements and really look at, the data of what's working, because we're able to collect better data because it's all happening within one platform. We're able to see the client journey much more clearly. We're able to see the retention much more clearly. We're able to see any gaps that we might have in the offers or in the process much more clearly. And so it's allowed us to facilitate an even higher level of client experience and result refinement, by having that system in place, which of course that's something then that we've rolled out to all of our clients. They also are going to have that included in any consulting or advisory services that they do with us, to ensure that they're able to take the business that we're helping them to build and scale it to 7 figures, 8 figures, and even 9 figures in the future. So those are kind of all of the pillars that are required to really be bringing in $500,000 a month. And a lot of these things I ultimately had to learn through trial and error. And we've gotten to a place where I feel really good about how our business is dialed in, and we're able to double down on these refinements and growth rather than just be spinning our wheels to keep the business going. So being able to break past that 2 million a year, and really head towards those 8-figure years, is really, what this has created for us, is the space to be able to create and innovate and bring on new team members and develop our programs and our processes even more, because we're not just constantly spinning the wheel of trying to get more leads. We're able to double down on retaining those customers, creating an even higher level experience for them, and ultimately serving more people. And at scale, what I've learned is that a lot of people feel that they're not able to create the same level of experience or results for people when they have more clients. And what I've learned is that at scale, you're actually able to deliver even better results and even faster results for clients. And so as you bring more people on, it can feel like there's resistance in the beginning. But what you'll find is that as you continue to scale, the more and more and more people that you bring through your system, the more refined it's going to get, the more impactful it's going to become. And you're going to be able to, with certainty, create results for your customers, and know that you're going to be able to sustain and keep your business running in a way that feels really good to you, doesn't take up all of your time, and ultimately allows you to create the life that you started this business to have. So, I hope that this episode was impactful for you. I'm excited for you to get to those $500,000 months because I know it's a huge milestone. And as always, my DMs are open. So if you want to chat through anything that we discussed in this episode, I am here for you. You know that I love a good voice note moment. So fill me in. Let me know if there's anything that's coming up for you that you want to chat about. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast, leave a review. Those help us so much. I'm still trying to figure out the podcast quote unquote algorithm, but I've been really, really enjoying it so far. So that's all for this episode. I appreciate you being here, and I'll see you in the next one.